From the breeding grounds through the migration routes to the southern wintering areas, Ducks Unlimited has been conserving waterfowl habitat for 86 years. DU volunteers and supporters have helped conserve over 15 million acres, but the work isn't done yet. To play your part in the next 15 million acres, visit www.ducks.org and join our volunteer team or find an event near you. Ducks Unlimited, the world leader in wetlands and waterfowl conservation.
Bottomland is Mossy Oak's original camo pattern created by Toxie Hayes over 3 decades ago. This pattern preserves the original design while applying advanced technology for increased effectiveness. The same field-proven components and colors, the same dirt and bark elements, the same ability to blend into dark environments and obscure a hunter's outline from every angle. Mossy Oak Bottomland.
Get on.
Welcome, folks. Y'all come on in and make yourself at home. This here, well, this is the Rolling Thunder Podcast, your home for all things Rolling Thunder. This episode is brought to you by Mossy Oak, because everything is better in Bottomland. Kent Cartridge, quality matters, performance counts. Shen Gear, waterfowl gear that is built better. Benelli USA, dominate the skies. And Ducks Unlimited, the world's leader in wetlands and waterfowl conservation.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the Rolling Thunder Podcast. Roll the dice. Well, hey, thanks for joining us. It's been a minute. Boy, every time I think the pace around here can't get any quicker and heavier, it seems like it just picks up. Duck season has come and gone. For some of us, we went out in a blaze of glory. For some of us, we crashed in a blaze of glory. Either way, it is over, and you can't do anything about days that have gone by other than learn from them.
Yep. Days of yesteryear.
Do them different the next go round. Mm-hmm. I want to start this podcast. I got a good agenda for us today. Okay, we're going to fully nerd out on the old new BSOD reborn Keyhole call. Yeah, motorcycle grip. We're gonna nerd out today, but before we start, I want to kind of give you I started my morning just a little somber, and I want to kind of tell this little story, and I just want to, this has nothing to do with our topic of conversation today, but as many of you know, famous country singer Toby Keith passed away this week, and he fought a valiant fight against cancer, and my buddy Jason Hart said it best. He said, Jason works for Mossy Oak. Jason said Toby was just like one of us. He loved to hunt and fish. He loved America. He loved his Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and he was a red-blooded country boy just like the rest of us. And he had a hard battle with cancer, but anyways, in the days that have followed his passing, ironically, the last song that he played live in a concert was called "Don't Let the Old Man In." And have you seen references to this on social media? Don't let the old man in. People have been saying, "Let the old man in," like referencing heaven. And so I didn't really know what that meant. And this morning I looked it up. Well, in 2019, Toby was out west, I think in L.A. or something, playing golf. And he met Clint Eastwood, who was 83 at the time, who's now, 5-6 years later, he's 87, 88, still living. But he's an old man, right? Mm-hmm. And apparently Toby Keith liked to play golf, just like all the rest of us, and more than me. But they played some golf, drank some beer together, and Clint was aggressively preparing for his next big movie that he was going to be the star actor in. And Toby Keith, the story goes, Toby Keith asked him, what in the hell keeps you going like this? And and the story gets told by Toby that Clint Eastwood looked at him and said, son, you got to wake up every day and don't let the old man in, because he's a-coming. And so I listened to this song, and, man, the song is just about growing old, you know? And, I mean, none of us are as young as we were yesterday, right?
That's right.
So at some portion of each one of us is different because we're older than it was yesterday and last year and the year before that. Man, I just got to thinking about it, and I got to wallering it around. And, this duck season for me was really, really interesting, because right when the second split came in, early December, we had a bunch of guys at my dad's house, and we hunted at Little Reno, and we did our usual, killed a couple of 5-gallon buckets full of wood ducks and one mallard, and we're rejoicing over that mallard and passing it around for pictures and all that kind of jazz, the good old West Tennessee stuff. And we left there, and I came here to work, and I'd let Tripp skip school that day, and I got back here, and I sat down in that chair right where Gurk is sitting, and I took a phone call, and I was having a meeting on the telephone. And while I was on the telephone, my dad called back to back. And then about 10 seconds later, my mom called. And by the time she called, and I'd missed 3 phone calls from them in a 30-second period of time, I knew something was wrong. And I can't remember who I was talking to, but I said, you're going to have to give me just a minute. Something's not right. I need to call you back. So I answered my mom's call, and she was frantic. She was about an hour from the house, and I think she was having lunch with some friends or something, and she said, something's not right. I think your daddy's having a heart attack. I was like, oh my gosh. Immediately, my heart sinks and my mind drops, because I'm thinking my poor dad called me twice. He's having a heart attack, and I didn't answer the telephone. So I call him, and, man, he can just barely speak. And he says, I think I'm okay, but I got to go to the hospital. And so long story short, my uncle is a radiologist, a retired radiologist, and I got on the telephone with him. He was out of town deer hunting, and he called me and said, your dad's definitely having a heart attack. There's no doubt in my mind. All the symptoms line up, blah, 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 blah. And he said, y'all need to get him to Germantown Methodist. And so that led to, about a 3-hour melee of rushing from here to back to the hospital, and long story short, he had just a nasty gallbladder attack, no heart problems at all. But it was those 3 or 4 hours where I was 100% convinced I was going to the hospital, begging the Lord to let me tell him goodbye, and that I was going to bury him. I mean, and so the rest of duck season just felt different for me, because, I hunted with him and my uncle and the kids every Saturday this whole duck season. I did not miss a single Saturday at the house with them. And, it wasn't glamorous. We didn't do any major mallard killing, but we spent time together, and it was really special. And like that, the way I felt that day, I carried it with me all season long. Well, so fast forward, I was this big, one of these days, watching my dad and my uncle come in from hunting, wanting to know what they did, wishing that I got to go. Like, I so vividly remember that. And so this year, between that happening with Dad and then just watching them age, they both basically retired this year, and so they've got a lot more time on their hands. And man, that song, I listened to it a couple times this morning. Boy, it just hit me right between the eyes. It was just like, wow. I mean, it's time is a thief, and you got to do your best to enjoy every day that you got. But at the same time, every one of us is either the old man or somebody that's looking up to the old man, or there's like the little kid, the middle-aged guy, or the old man, and we're in one of those spots. And I'm sitting there thinking about my dad, and I texted him and my uncle, and I said, hey, you need to listen to this. It's just Toby Keith wrote this about Clint Eastwood, and I said, here's the here's to not letting the old man in. There's a little boy in here inside of me that needs y'all to not let the old man in. And then it kind of hit me like a ton of bricks on the way after that. You know, there's a little boy coming behind me, and he doesn't want me to let the old man in. You know, and so, anyways, here's to you, Toby Keith, and here's to all of you, you know, good folks listening. Don't let the old man in. Stay young.
There you go.
Okay.
Don't let that old man in.
Don't look at me like that when you tell me that.
No
Gurk.
kidding, Gurk.
Don't let the old man in.
Thanks, Gurk. You just lightened the mood a little bit. Let me wipe the tears out of my eyes. And woo! How about NWTF? Y'all are not nearly stressed out
It's
enough
coming.
for me.
It's coming.
I get quiet whenever I get stressed, so I'm pretty stressed.
Yeah, I'm pretty stressed.
We sat down to listen to the intro, and I looked around at y'all, and y'all are all just kind of quiet, and I can't tell if y'all are as stressed as I am or if you're
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
just like, oh, it's all fine.
Yeah.
It's gonna be fine. We're a little stressed, but it's gonna be fine.
It's gonna be fun. We're not in a bad position for where we really need to be. I mean, we're not. I don't think we're behind yet.
No, chugging along pretty good.
I would say we're pretty much right on schedule.
Yeah.
We've actually got a pile of stuff by the front door
I think it's just
waiting to be loaded.
habit to stress before NWTF.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of stuff.
I forgot how like quick it is after duck season.
Yeah.
So
Comes
did
with
I.
a vengeance.
Yeah.
Every year, I think I'm going to place orders for stuff before Christmas because the day after Christmas, you're like 6 weeks from NWTF. Mm-hmm. And most everybody wants 30 days to make something. If you need T-shirts or bags or hats or whatever you need, and you think, well, if I can just get to the end of duck season, man, you get to the end of duck season, it's like,
That's when the work
I need these
starts.
before NWTF. Oh, so you need them yesterday, tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. It just doesn't work that way. But yeah, it is come in a hurry. Mm-hmm. It has come in a hurry. What y'all thinking? Feeling good? You nervous? You?
And then there's just a lot of unknown expectations that are going to happen at NWTF.
Yeah. I'm excited to see everybody's reaction.
I'm excited too. I'm nervous. I don't know why I'm nervous, other than just when you roll something out there, you just there's a little part of, I think no matter how old you are and no matter how much success or failure you achieve, you just in your gut you always feel like the little kid, you're going to step up there and strike out when it matters.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know we're not going to strike out, but
Cool.
I'd rather run the bases than I would have to stand up there and hit the pitch coming down the middle. You know what I'm saying? But that's what keeps you getting up in the morning and keeps you going after it. So
It's about to get wild.
what you think about the old BSOD, Gurk?
Well, I think it's a really good call. I feel like it's going to be a lot of people are going to enjoy opening it out of that box and immediately just want to hear the sound of it.
You think they're gonna grip it like a motorcycle and go rum rum?
I don't know.
First person's going to buy two.
Yeah.
It'd be cool just to open the box for nostalgia purposes in that alone, much less, how good it sounds. I mean,
Yeah, a lot of people
that's
aren't-
cool. I mean, it's cool to bring back the BSOD. You see how much everybody wants it.
What year did you start?
I started with you in 17, I think.
Right, I know that, but I mean, what year did you start working for BGC?
2010.
Dang. So you really were there from the beginning. You
Yeah.
were there at BGC when I first came to use the
Yeah.
laser engraver and all that.
Yeah, from the beginning.
Aaron's the real OG.
I mean, to my knowledge, it would just be Aaron. After Aaron would be Derek and me. That's going to be there. Boy, them suckers were rough, weren't they?
Man, my desk back then, if people would have seen that, would have I could have retired. I could have left Spence. I mean, insanity. couldn't. They were everywhere.
What did Buck think back then about them keyholes?
I don't know if he had too much an opinion.
At first, I know he hated them.
I don't think
he thought they were annoying.
He was definitely all in the J frame, but
About like Butch.
I think
he thought it was silliness at first.
Yeah, and I think he's seen where it was kind of starting to take off, and I want to say he made a mold and
no, he tried to buy one.
Right.
He tried to undercut me
Okay.
on Max.
Okay.
He and Slayton did. I don't know if I can even say that on air. Surely Slate Dog's not going to listen to this.
Who knows?
But yeah, that was my first experience. Was he got real jealous?
I can remember
real quick.
seeing the mold, asking about it. Nothing ever came of it. He didn't.
Is the mold that Echo bought?
That's right. I knew it had something.
It was
to do
Mr.
with him.
Clayton
That's
had
right.
that mold.
Yeah.
And he was trying to get he was trying to get Rick to buy it. He was trying to get
Yep.
Buck to buy it, and he was trying to get Butch to buy it. He was trying to get anybody to buy it that could because he wanted to collect his money.
Yeah. But no, after that, and that was very short lived. He put no interest in it, so it was all screaming J frames for him.
It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, but yeah, because I can remember Trip was
Born
a couple weeks old when I first met Miss Lindy. So, dang, that's crazy to think about that now.
One year, the first year that I went to Max, I didn't have all my stuff because they were engraving it. And Lindy brought calls to Aaron, and he engraved them like one night.
Yeah, I did.
And then drove them to me in Stuttgart, and I put them together behind the call counter at Max. And it was like Aaron drove over there and delivered me those calls.
I did. And then turned around and delivered your keys to you.
That's exactly right. I forgot about that. I lost those keys.
That was a year after or so, or a year or two, I think.
Well, what y'all think about the call in general?
It's a fun call to operate. It's different.
Like what I've been saying, meat and potatoes. Those guys that like that, just that. I mean, Dallas was talking about it because I did up a pink BSOD for him. That one that he got from the AC's Fish House, and he's like, "Man, that's just real meat and potatoes. Just it's not something I'd really go on stage with, but it's something I would pick up and hunt every day." It's like, yeah, it's kind of what this is like.
Gurk, what you think about all this rambling around that we're doing? These things. Y'all have them cut downs up there in South Dakota?
No, we don't. We don't have the flooded timber that y'all have or the flooded forest that's down here. No, I think there's a lot to know about the BSOD itself. I mean, I don't even know how many times I've asked what does BSOD even stand for, and Black Stick of Death. And I mean, where did Black Stick of Death even originate?
That's a good question.
Like, what guy said, "Oh, let's name this thing the Black Stick of Death"?
It's a great question.
I mean, really, seriously. No, and then said, "Hey, let's raise the letters on the barrel."
Okay, no, that's a great question. I don't know who said Black Stick of Death, but that was a common nickname that was given to olts that were turned around backwards. People would say, because it wasn't an olt that was turned around backwards and modified was not something that was, commercially sold. And so, you'd hear people refer to, oh, what's he, what call is that? Oh, it's, it's the old Black Stick of Death, like is a kind of a secret name. So, I mean, that the reason that the letters were raised is because when I first was trying to replicate that shape and the style of call and all those things, man, I was scared to death that the Olt family would file a class action lawsuit against me and all $2 I had in my checking account and my crummy little. We were watching that YouTube video the other day of me running over that truck, running over that call with the truck. I mean, paid $500 for that truck and sold it for $700, you know, after I put 50,000 miles on it and had a set of BF Goodrich tires on it that I bought for $50 out of the newspaper. I mean, I didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. Still don't. But I mean, geez, I was scared to death. I wanted to make a cut down and I wanted to replicate my sound, but I didn't have any idea how to do that in a way that both like communicated a cut down so that people looked at it and were like, oh yeah, that's definitely a cut down, but didn't violate some sort of, I didn't know anything about intellectual property. And so I didn't know if like the way that mouthpiece was designed or the length of the barrel or I didn't know. I just didn't want somebody suing my butt. I mean, hell, at the time, honestly, I was living in my mom and dad's house upstairs. I mean, we'd just moved back from seminary and we didn't have a house. And I mean, I was legit. I was scared. That's where the raised letters came from. And I figured that, I mean, they weren't exactly attractive. You know, they weren't aesthetically like, whoo, that's beautiful. I mean, they were just gaudy. But I kind of figured in people's pictures, you know, that gaudy would stand out. Yeah. And so I just thought, it looks like a cut down. There are no other cut downs available. And now let me back up. There was one other cut down available, and it was the DFB. But when we first started cutting this mold, the DFB was not available, the Black Ops thing. So in my mind, I was trying to make a black duck call that looked like an Olt turned around backwards, and I was trying not to get sued. And I was trying to make sure that I made a duck call that stood out. Because, I mean, you know, a black duck call just looks like a black duck call. And hold on one second. Anyways, so that was my goal. And what I really wanted to do right out the gate was I wanted to call it a PS Olt. I actually called the Olt family, and then I got a friend of my dad's who was a lawyer to write them a letter, and I tried to license their name. And so when you license something, you basically just pay them a fee to rent it. And so my whole pitch to them was, I'll build the mold, I'll sell the call, I'll do everything, and just let me pay you, $1 a call or something along those lines for use of your name. Because I thought, how cool would that be? Then I could really flex on the world and be like, the PS Olt is back. Had no idea, and they just ignored me. At every attempt, they ignored me. And so that's when I was like, well, how do I get close to that? I knew that the tone board was different because I had to change shape, but I wanted the outside to still look like a cut down. I mean, hell, I don't know. In those early years, you couldn't hardly give those things away. I mean, we were $40 is what we charged for them, and we would do 3 of them for $100.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's a pretty good deal right now.
Yeah. Somebody sold me 3 of them for $100.
We sold every one we took to Stuttgart that first winter. We launched we didn't even. Launch is such a fancy term, like you launch. Launch meant I paid whatever the GoDaddy wasn't even a company then, but it was myhosting.com. I registered the website Rolling Thunder Game Call, and the website was a white page with black letters that said BSOD. I think it said the loudest cut down duck call, the loudest duck call ever made. That's what it said. That was our go-to phrase. And I had a sound file on there. And so when you opened up the website, it was a sound file of me blowing a duck call in my parents' kitchen. And so I never would have thought in a million years that people would actually want that, but just as we've the last couple of years as we've grown, I mean, that's the number one thing we hear, right? I mean, the people they love the XL and the XLS. They love all the calls that we've made, but I mean, it's a couple times a week somebody's walking in here bringing us, one of the old raised letter calls or mailing it to us, or I mean, We have a ton of people that have lost the inserts that, come in and want the inserts, and we don't have any more of those. Just to clarify, we do not have any more of those. Well,
we haven't had any of those.
We don't have any more. I know there are a few Ziploc baggies that are not going to get opened, but no, I mean, I guess that's just kind of always been in our head, and yeah, that answers your question, Gurk.
Mm-hmm.
Where'd y'all get the Black Stick of Death name from?
I really don't remember. I mean, it was just my only recollection was that when I started getting interested in oats in about 2004, 2005, that's about when my uncle met Dennis Campbell in 2005. It was the first time I'd ever seen somebody turn an oat around backwards and heard it and watched the way ducks reacted. So, I started buying some and trying to find out where I could get an oat and asking Dennis questions, and he was a crotchety. He wasn't. I mean,
not changed.
No. He's softened up a bunch, but he's still that way. You're right. Just dry and just like, he killing any ducks? I don't know. I ought to type it in Google and see what it says. That's the kind of thing he would say. Anyways, one thing led to another, and in those years, the Facebook didn't have groups. Facebook was just barely a thing. It was the MySpace and whatever the other social platforms were. But the place that people interacted online was those web forums. And so the Arkansas Duck Hunters page of the Refuge Forum was hopping all the time. And then there was ArkansasDuckHunters.net. That was a big one. And I mean, those two pages were just...
Those stayed relevant until probably like 2013 or 14.
Yeah. They're actually still working. I mean,
jeez.
I haven't... I would try to dive back in and remember where we were at. We had the one of the unfortunate things, or it's fortunate for us, but we don't have like a fancy studio, so we're sitting right here by the front door when customers comes in. Libby's subbing today, so we had to meet our friendly new customers. They're from Oklahoma. It's their birthday. Aubrey, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Happy birthday.
As the owner, I got to say, if I was buying a duck call, I would have old 3-time over there and blow it so I can hear what it sounds like.
I think we got him fixed up.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Good deal. All right. See y'all later. Happy birthday.
Yeah.
We were talking web forums, I think, and raised letters. And anyways, so, I mean, the same kind of thing was happening then that's happening now. You couldn't get an old. And if you got them, they were crummy. People were selling the ones that they had screwed up, and I mean, they were expensive. They were just as expensive then as they were $100+ dollars in 07 to, I'd say, 10, 11. You could find them every now and then cheaper than that. But I mean, the good ones had the painted 348 205, on the insert. Like those have always had been a premium.
Right.
And when cutdown started, when Fleeman started selling the Black Ops, and then we started selling, I mean, it picked up steam in a hurry, because right on the heels of us selling the BSOD, I mean, right third in line, or third in line was the Real Deal Meat Hunter. What a name!
Hell of a name.
Yeah, Meat Hunter, Real Deal Meat Hunter. It was I can't remember the dude's name now that did that, but he machined sort of a cut down style. Had it was Delrin, acrylic, and stuff like that, and then right on the heels of that was the R&T Mondo, and so it was all kind of a flurry right there between fall of 10 and like Christmas of 2011. I think the Mondo officially was in the Max catalog in fall of 2011. And so that fall of 2011 was the first time we were at max. And I mean, R&T didn't even have enough Mondos in 2011 to put them in max. You know, they've sold a few online and it just took off. And I remember in those early years, the coolest thing was nobody knew what a cutdown was. So the fact that R&T had an acrylic cutdown for $125, you know, I mean, people would buy mine just to try it because it was $40. And then if they liked it, they'd buy an acrylic one because there was this, and still is, you know, there's a perception of value, polycarbonate versus acrylic and machined. And, and so it was awesome because it was like they were out there advertising, they were operating as a cut and plow, you know, and here I was just doing my thing. And I mean, we couldn't keep up with them. And, so yeah, that's where the raised letters came from.
How much of a year gap is there from the point of the BSOD being, you know, able to purchase from the start of it, like when it went obsolete till, you know, the 15th of, you know, this
You mean like when did we retire it?
Basically, yeah.
So in those early years, Michael Fleeman had a hell of a following in Arkansas. You know, I was from Tennessee, right? So on these pages, we were talking about Arkansas stuff. And I mean, that's where the term oozer comes from, out-of-state hunter. You know, well, that is one of those acronyms. And BSOD was kind of also one of those acronyms, like that people would, you had all these little handles. So you had like in your signature of those things, you had like, you'd put like the duck call you blew on there. You put your dog's name and all their titles. You put how many bands you had. Like you had all these gay, stupid little
Spence at the
yeah,
bottom.
I mean, yeah, exactly. and so like you had a handle and it was very anonymous. Mine was Stout Hal, you know, and I mean, and you had, because it's hilarious, isn't it? But it was that because at the time, lacrosse didn't have talls and shorts. They had regulars and stouts. And so I wore a 10 stout. That was just my size. You know, it was like a little extra room in the belly. And, you know, I mean, it was great. Stick your coat inside your waders if you needed to. Boy, as a side note, we've come a long way with waders.
I was talking
Those
about that.
Those were 5 millimeter neoprene with fleece glued to the inside of the neoprene. Do you know how hot them rigs were? I mean, you could have a thunderstorm in between your legs. You go to walk into a duck hole and you were wringing wet, and it was not because your waders leaked. It was because you were making sweat. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, and they were very stiff to walk in.
Stiff, heavy
Hip
boots.
flexors.
Yeah. That's still why when I get up from a chair, I'm like, oh, my hip.
Hodgmans.
Yeah, I had the Hodgmans.
So I was just living in luxury, didn't even know it when
What do
I
you
first put on the waders and come in here into the woods.
You've never worn neoprene waders?
Well, maybe
gosh.
once.
Oh my god!
When we were hunting the flooded corn back home, yeah, maybe, but that's it.
The funny thing about that is neoprene was light years better than the 2 or 3 things that predated it. I mean, waders have come a long way in 20 years. And I mean, I'm not an old guy. Waders have come a long way in my adult lifetime. I mean, a long ways. We won't rabbit hole there, but
Remember like the old wool booties that you used to have to put on inside the waders? God,
yeah,
I miss those.
the Cabellas brush busters came with a pair of light tan colored felt insoles, and you put them on, you slipped them on, they came up about middle of your shin, and they were not tight. They had a split down the front of them so that your foot could, you know, flex in them, and then you stuck that in the wader because your boots were just a rubber shell. You didn't have any insulation in the boot, and that not all of them were like that, but that's the way the Cabellas were, and they were tough. 1,000 denier, like seat covers are like 150 denier. I mean, they were so stiff. They'd stand up in the dang corner of but they didn't leak and they didn't tear up. You couldn't cut them. Cabela's had an advertisement with a steak knife trying to cut through it. You couldn't. I mean, the only way it was leaking is if the rubber in that boot just dry rotted and cracked. And I mean, I still had mine as of a couple years ago because I was like, I don't know why I would ever put them on, but I mean, they were, you know, they were like 60 inches around, you know. I mean, you had to have a belt to cinch them up. I mean, they were.
And lacrosse was like one of the first companies where you could go get sized for them.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
so their neoprene was a little bit,
A little slimmer.
yeah, and more advanced than some of the other brands, but some of the other brands, the mud balls, isn't that what they're called?
Red balls.
Red balls.
Yeah, you could buy them at Walmart at that time.
Yeah.
You can go in Walmart and buy you a pair of rubber. I mean, all these folks talking about vintage camo and vintage this and all. Let me tell you what vintage is. Vintage is freezing your balls off. I mean, wet and cold is what vintage is. Like, you look sharp. You look like an Orvis catalog wearing that wax cotton. Like, it's handsome. Don't get me wrong. But man, when I see rubber waders and canvas jackets and wax cotton, boy, I just shiver.
Hip deep water. Oh my God.
Because a 60 series and a Prima Loft, let me tell you, woo,
Yeah, pretty nice.
about all a man needs.
Yeah.
But anyways, so like the BSOD and the we were talking about being from Arkansas, versus Tennessee. You had little things that were written in your signature handle, and so you had your handle on the left side, and at the bottom of wherever you made a comment, you had these, signature things, and so those acronyms like BSOD came from there for what I was about to say. What I was trying to say, y'all got me rambling and rabbit trailing, but what I was saying was that Fleeman had a whole pile, an army of Arkansans, and so my raised letter motorcycle grip piece of crap plastic duck call was a bastardization of everything to them that was flooded green timber. I mean, how dare somebody that's not from Arkansas blow a cut down? I mean, so I took 9 kinds of hell in those web forums, which ultimately sold duck calls. I mean, a lot of duck calls.
He must not have known Robin Jones.
Yeah. And so you asked when the last raised letter was sold. All right. Well, the mold that we had to build those things was aluminum. And in injection molding, you do stainless steel so that it lasts. Aluminum is soft and it dents, it chips, and with heat, you have to heat the plastic to get it to go in there. When you add heat to aluminum, it really tears up fast. And so we basically just wore that mold out. I mean, an aluminum injection mold probably is only good for, 4,000 or 5,000 parts. And we ran a hell of a lot more through it than that. But the professor that ran the machine, he took a different job, and then the kid that did the work study that was running the deal for us at night, like all those things just changed over a couple of years' time, because you were dealing with college kids and college professors. Well, so between the amount of social pressure I was taking for how ugly that raised letter duck call was, and from being from Tennessee, and between wearing the mold out because we were selling so many of them, we had to do something else. And so that's about the time that Buck Gardner saw some of the calls at a show. Can't remember which one. And Buck sent Slayton over, and I ended up going down there to see Buck, and Buck looked at it and blew the call, took it down there to Troyer. Yeah. And Buck was like, son, if you ever want to make some of these parts out of acrylic, you ought to let us help you. And Buck was, for all his faults, Buck was a hard guy to get along with. And he was slippery. But for all his faults, Buck had a giant heart. And he really wanted to help people. Yeah. A lot like Butch, except Butch didn't have that slippery side. Butch was just gruff, But Buck would, he really did want to help. And he was really kind. And he showed me a couple things about corks and your cork in this is not right, and you ought to do this, and you ought to, he showed me some things. I learned more about how to tune a duck call from Buck than probably anybody else, and it had nothing to do with the cut down. It was just like the mechanics of the height of this cork and where it lays on the reed. It changes the effective length of the reed that's hitting the tone board, and just all these little things. And I was like, and so I got a lot of positives, I owe Buck a lot. I'll say that. Well, Buck, let me back up. So I was trying to figure out at the time how to get away from this mold because it was sloppy and because they were polycarbonate and because we were buying the plastic that goes in the mold. We were buying it in sample bags of like 20 pounds. And the manufacturer of the sample pounds was really irritated that we were always a sample customer. And we were never buying the real bags are like 500 pounds. And 500 pounds would have been like 50,000 duck calls or some outrageous number. And it was thousands of dollars, and we didn't have any money. And I mean, we were selling them for next to nothing. So had to work on them so hard. We were too dumb to realize that we were just spending all our time and dollars in labor, But so all that being said, I was trying to figure out how to get away from polycarbonate and away from that mold. And I just figured, well, hell, we'll just do a acrylic barrel, and then we use those inserts, shove them into an acrylic barrel. And so when you have a raised letter BSOD motorcycle grip, and then you come out with this sleek acrylic barrel, that's what we called the gentleman's cut. Because we were like, oh, you want to cut down, but you don't want the young kid, chartreuse, you didn't want the edgy. I mean, those letters were edgy. I mean, there wasn't any duck calls on the market like that. And so once I realized we could do these acrylics, then I figured out how to mold that same thing without the raised letters. And I mean, we think 2014 would be my guess. That's about when we quit selling the raised letter BSODs.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
because my first, I guess, big job for you was tuning those gentleman's cuts. I was still messing with the BSODs a little bit, but my first big thing was the gentleman's cut.
And so then from there, I figured out, like, Buck turned some of them, but Buck was busy. I mean, that was the height of Buck Gardner calls. Thousands of them. So he didn't have a lot of machine time. So there was a shop in North Mississippi, like in the Olive Branch area, that just a little mom and pop machine shop in this old dude's garage. He had a couple of Haas lathes, and he would turn barrels for me. And so I'd buy acrylic, have it shipped to the house, and I'd have to drive it all the way from here down to Olive Branch just to deliver the acrylic. No telling what time and fuel that cost me. And then go back 2 weeks later, and I'd get a box of barrels. And that time I'd hopefully have some inserts tuned up, and then I'd pair up those inserts with the barrels. And so my guess is it's been right around 10 years since we sold, since we quit selling. Probably was the spring of 14 that we, but I would say the orders that we wrote for like the fall of 2015 would have been no raised letters. So that would right at 10 years. We'll call it 10 years. Yeah. 10 years is a nice round number.
Yeah. Do you ever look back and look at all the operations it took to create all the original BSODs, and now you're looking back and seeing how the BSODs that we're making now, like, how do you reflect that?
That's an excellent question. And yes, I do all the time. And the number one thing that I learned was you should probably ask somebody who's done this before how they do it instead of just trying to figure it out yourself. Because that's what I did. Like, I was too proud to ask somebody, how do you get a mouthpiece that doesn't cut your lip when you blow on it? Well, you take sandpaper and you before you build the mold, like, the most important part of the mold is the mouthpiece, like, that's what you're going to touch and feel. You know what I mean? So, lots of things like that. We basically tried to create the wheel from scratch. Like, instead of asking, I should have just gone and asked other call makers, how do you build a mold? Who do you talk to get reeds from? And Buck was really the first person that, like, actually helped me with some of that, because he helped me source 14 mil reed. And I learned that goose call reed material was the same as what, old style reeds were made out of. So I figured out how to get a punch made after 10 failed attempts that are in that museum. And then, I bought reed material from Buck, and Buck was the first person. We were talking about this the other day. Buck was the first person that told me all mylar is not created equal, just like all sandpaper is not created equal, and all automobiles are not created equal. I mean, You can get you a little Isuzu, Datsun, 2-wheel drive, 4-stroke if you want to, and it'll probably drive 1,000,000 miles. But you ain't gonna pull a house down with it. So if you need to pull a load, you need to get the right truck for pulling a load. You know what I mean? Like tools mattered. And he showed me where to get cork, and I don't know. I mean, he helped me a lot. So
you do sit back and reflect on it
all the time. Are you kidding? There was a guy named Jose who was here on a work visa, part of a church that taught English as a second language, that did nothing but sand the mouthpieces on those early ones.
Where's Jose now?
I don't know. I need to find out. But it never occurred to me, we ought to stop and build another mold that doesn't require us to put that into a lathe and sand the mouthpiece before somebody can blow on the call. I mean, I feel so stupid saying that, but I mean, that's, and same for the tone boards. We were so hell bent on trying to, it's kind of like we talked about last night. Like, the whole thing is a journey, right? You're trying to improve upon what you did yesterday. So you're trying to learn from what you did, from the mistakes and from the successes, and then do tomorrow better than you did yesterday. And so when we built the BSOD, our number one priority, wow, that is serious range.
This steel roof will kill you.
Just a few months late.
Pause for a second.
Yeah. Oh, heck, let's just go. But our number one priority was to make a commercially available cut down. Okay. Our second priority was to take the faults of the Olds and fix them. So what were the faults of the Olds? One, the availability. They were hard to find. Two, they were really brittle. You could have the greatest Olt in the world, and you could drop it on the floor and it would shatter like glass because it was brittle. And when you turned it around backwards, people would stick the insert into the barrel and the barrel would split. And so we wanted a barrel that was hard and dense and that wouldn't break, but also that had the same kind of tonal qualities that hard rubber or Bakelite or whatever you want to call it. I'm not entering that debate about what was in the Olds, but whatever that hard rubber material was had a great tonal quality to it. And so we wanted all that. And so when we picked the material, Wes Reed, my childhood buddy that helped me start Rolling Thunder, we bought 4 or 5 different Olds. We ground them down, and he sent them to a chemistry lab and had them chemically analyzed. And then we put those things like brittle, density, I can't even remember what all the categories were. We put all those things into some categories, and then we isolated each generation of the Olt, like what part of that was better than another. And then we took all those characteristics and we gave them to this company that made polycarbonate blends, and they gave us a custom blended polycarbonate to make our call. Well, that was all cool, and it was a great story to sell somebody. But you know what that turned into? It turned into an insert that was like sanding on the tone board of that insert was like trying to reshape a cinder block. Like, I mean, it was awful. And I mean, it was horrible. So I'd try to tune those things. You try to change the shape of the old BSODs, and I mean, you better pack a lunch and get a Gatorade, and take some Advil, because you were going to lean into that sucker. It was so hard to change the shape. Well, back to your question, what did I learn from that? I learned that we picked a material. We picked something. We focused on something that wasn't the most important thing. The most important thing wasn't replicating all the attributes of that material. The most important thing was building something that we could manipulate, sand, and make readily available. And so we spent all our time building this duck call that created something that took a whole bunch of additional time, in labor. Mm-hmm. And so, you fast forward that forward, like thinking about material and different things, you want to pick materials that have great sound quality. But I mean, there's a reason that we don't make aluminum duck calls, and it's not because your lips would stick to them in the cold. It's because sandpaper and aluminum don't go together very well. I mean, it just doesn't lend itself to good tuning.
Makes the hair stand up on the back of your neck.
Yeah, and because all of us blow a duck call different. So, the way Drake like his call tuned is a little different than the way I like my duck call tuned. And yeah, we can both make them quack, and same with Riley. Like we all can pick one up and go quack, 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 chatter, chatter, chatter. But when you're picking a duck call that goes on your lanyard, you want that thing to, it's sound is probably the most important thing, but so is feel. And those are two totally different topics, right? So you want it to sound good, but you also want it to feel right. Like in that moment when you ain't thinking about anything else but where's my gun and clicking the safety off, like you don't want to be thinking about how that duck call feels. You want your mind to be in overdrive. Yep. Kill, kill, kill. Pew, pew, pew. Reload. So, anyway, was that a long enough answer?
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. I mean, best way to answer a question is with the most words.
That's a Gurkism. Yeah. We're quoting that one. That's like you're like Yogi Berra. Best way to answer a question was the most words.
Do you think a lot of people will hunt with it?
I hope so. I mean,
you would think.
You'd hope.
To be honest, nothing would make me more happy than to see a lanyard that had a Levy cut on one loop and a BSOD on the other. I mean,
yep, and a wood duck whistle.
I seen a custom wood duck whistle on the
back shelf. Somebody got
earlier.
a juice one.
I'm sitting here like, how am I going to polish the inside of that?
Yeah, I had to drive to Memphis to get a stick of juice from Farco because we didn't have any more. I was like, man, how times have changed. I'm driving 45 minutes to get one stick of acrylic to make somebody a juice wood duck whistle. Spence back then would have rather sand on that hard material than ever make somebody a wood duck call. I would have said, nope, we don't make wood duck calls, nor do we make double reeds. God gave a duck one tongue. I'm giving this duck call one tongue. That was my mantra.
Times have changed.
So, well, let's talk just a little bit about design.
Okay.
All right. So, I mean, there's a ton of things to say about design, but I want to talk about the keyhole, and I want to talk about the parts of a duck call that affect the sound. Okay, so for just a minute, let's don't talk about this call, but let's the four of us and Gurk, you can pitch in if you want, but let's just talk about the parts of a duck call that affect the sound. Right. Start with tone channel, bore depth, like how long it is,
how deep
it is,
Bore size,
at what size it is, what shape it is. All right, so you have. That's the center hole that goes from the exhaust to the front of the tone board if you're looking at it from the side. All right, so the size of that drill bit or the multiple sizes of that drill bit, the placement of where that drill bit, the stops, and the different drill bits, like where those shoulders are, just minute differences make huge impacts.
Yep.
And I think the average customer buying a duck call, they ask us all the time, right? What's the difference between the Brute and the Brute R and the Brute XL and the Brute XLS? And it's really hard to explain that. And so sometimes you start talking about it, you feel like you're pulling the wool over somebody's eyes or you're selling, fish oil. But the biggest difference is feel, because the holes are in different places. And so they make a different sound. And, a really good caller can make all of them sound really, really similar. But like we said earlier, it's that feel, All right, so that's tone channel. What's another one?
So your tone board with your heights and
deck height, right? So like the decks are not flat. That's what Philip Olt changed in 1904. Patent 348205. Anybody know what that patent was for?
Nope.
Curved tone board, flat reed. Yeah. So prior to 1904, everything virtually was a what they call a real foot style call or a Tennessee style duck call, because our duck history goes just as far back as Arkansas does. But prior to that, they used a metal reed and they bent the reed, so the reed was curved and the tone board was flat. So Philip Sanford Olt in Illinois flip-flopped that, which started the modern duck call revolution. You know, that was the beginning of it. So now every duck call that's available virtually on the market has a curvature in the tone board. And, you know, the Olt was one of the first of those that didn't have a flat tone board that then descended. So, like if you compared to, say, a DR85, that Haydell made, or a Louisiana style call, those, if you're looking at the side of the tone board from the back corner where the cork is to the front, that's a perfectly flat line, and then it falls off in the front. And so it's a flat reed on a flat tone board with a curve. Mm-hmm. But what Olt did was, from the back corner of that cork, that thing had an upslope. So it made that reed not sit flat. It made that reed sit up in the air. This was before they were modified even. Just right out of the box, you put a cork and a reed in that call, and that reed is sticking up just a little bit. So fast forward to whenever this happened in magical duck hunting history, people started whittling on the end of their tone boards. And they discovered that when you sanded on it, it made it more raspy. You create some more space between the reed and the tone board, right? So fast forward to where we are today, deck height matters. Mm-hmm. And the placement of that height matters. If your thickness right behind the cork tab matters, your thickness at the end matters, and the geometry of that hump between there matters. And when you combine all of those deck heights and curvatures with all of the different possibilities of those holes, there's a wide range of opportunities and options in there, right? Yeah. Those combinations are endless.
Yep.
And just the tiniest bit of differences in those things makes it, changes sound, changes feel. All right, what's another one?
Barrels.
Your reed length.
Yeah.
And reed length.
Yep. Barrel length, reed length.
Mouthpiece. The difference in a mouthpiece, whether it's open or closed, changes how the call feels and operates at the same time.
It's kind of restating one of them, but I was going to say, if you're listing things, your bore is one, but then your overall bore really gets divided in half, because you have the distance from the front of the cork forward, and you have a distance from the back of the cork right. So like the exhaust distance affects it, but so does the tone board distance. You can have a great tone board and a great front half of your geometry, but you make that exhaust, you keep making that exhaust longer, or keep making that exhaust or shorten that exhaust, and it totally changes the way the call feels.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Which is where the keyhole comes in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, y'all got anything you want to say about that? I'll keep talking, but I'm kind of tired of hearing myself listen. I'll keep talking. To me, that's what makes this call interesting, is the keyhole is, when we made this call, we were not trying to perfectly replicate a keyhole Olt. If we were, we would have just cast molded an Olt. Mm-hmm. That's what everybody's doing. Mm-hmm. That's fine. Nope, not throwing any shade towards that. But we were trying to put our spin on both the sound but also the feel of a keyhole. And so we experimented with different depths and distances of both the front end of the tone board and the exhaust end of the tone board, and what we came out with was a call that the overall exhaust bore is a different size than we've ever produced here. Mm-hmm. It's actually smaller.
Yeah. Than anything we got.
Yeah, than anything. And that call is than any of our cut downs, right?
Yeah.
And that call is, we need to invest in one of those sound meter things, But
We
there
should.
ain't no volume lacking in this duck
No.
call.
No,
I mean
not one
it's
bit.
just as loud as anything. I mean, I don't know how between the XL and the Levy cut and this one, I don't know how you tell which one's louder.
Yeah, no
It's
kidding.
sort of. I mean, man, the XL may be the quietest of those three, but I mean the
And it's
Levy
got the biggest of the hole.
and it's got the biggest hole.
Yeah.
That's exactly
Almost
right.
makes you wonder how small can you really go.
Yeah, you're right. And I guess there's just some physics involved that the five of us are not smart enough to understand, because it's kind of like the difference between a trumpet and a clarinet and a tuba and a oboe and all those different, the sizes of those holes, the taper of them, all those things affect it. I don't know. I just say that because, to be honest, I'm going to stick my neck out here. I've read these comments in social media land about how, oh, you know, that doesn't change anything. We've done that. We've tried that. Like,
It's too expensive.
You can't make me live in Rainbow Land if I don't want to live in Rainbow Land.
yeah, I mean, come on. Rainbow Land.
It's off a movie. Come on. He said social media land. I was like, Rainbow Land.
I was really just trying to get to the point to say that it's pretty disingenuous to say that changing the geometry of any portion of the call does not affect the way it sounds and the way it feels.
Yeah.
If you change one thing about an insert or the tone board, can you compensate it in another place to offset the change that you make? Yes, in some ways, right?
Yes.
You can sand a little bit off the front, then you
Yeah.
can take a little bit off the back. Like, you can balance it. But every time you start making those changes, you're changing things.
Yep.
It's silly to say, oh, well, you know, that doesn't change anything. Okay. Because you know what?
Well, call it right.
About the closest thing that doesn't change is what? Color.
The collar, yeah.
Well, yeah.
But look at Drake over there. You can't tell Drake, and you can't tell me that Orange Pearl sounds the same as Ivory.
Right.
Not at all.
Yeah.
It don't turn the same. You can't tell me that any of those, to be honest, you can't tell me that any of the pearls sound the same as any of the solids.
And we lined some up of different style, but different brand acrylic versus other stuff, and
Right.
same.
They're not all the
calls,
same.
And
Huge
yeah, we
differences.
test them between different models
It's
with
just-
different colors of different whatevers. You know, it's the same colors of different companies,
Right.
And one is definitely superior than
Right.
the other.
Yeah, we're not even picking a manufacturer battle here. I'm just telling you that every
Right.
color of Smartech
Yeah.
don't sound the same. It don't.
unique
And
to its own.
That ivory we've got in that pure duck, I sanded one just out of curiosity, and I mean, it sounds pretty snazzy. It sounds different too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nice. Super heavy.
and I guess I was bringing that up just to say that does the difference between Orange Pearl and Ivory matter to a mallard duck?
No.
No.
To the human being, yes.
Does the
Sometimes.
difference between a 50 horse Tohatsu and a mud motor matter to a mallard duck?
No.
Maybe some days,
Maybe, but
in
in the dark,
afternoons, and people are running around the woods.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
get to the duck hole, whether
don't
you
matter.
walk in or in it. Does that matter? No. Does it matter to you? You damn right it does. You got an opinion about it.
Yep.
You know, you care. You care about what color truck you have. You care about what brand boat you have. You care about what color dog you have. You care about who trains your dog. You care about what brand shotgun you shoot. You care about what camo pattern you wear. I mean, so I don't know, y'all. The preacher inside of me is waking up, but I bristle just a little bit when people say that doesn't matter or that doesn't have any effect. Like, that's, I don't know. Come on, man.
My question was, and I don't mean to throw shade in any way, but like building a new duck call. I mean, you guys built the Levy cut, built the XL. built this BSOD now.
Under our own roof, may I add.
Yes, in Somerville, Tennessee.
That roof some days is louder than others, as you've been listening to.
So what I was going to ask is there a lot of trial and error? Like, obviously there's a lot of skill that goes involved with building a new duck call to get the sound that you're trying to get out of it. Now, which one outweighs the other one, skill or trial and error? Because obviously there's skill involved with building a new duck call and knowing what needs to come off or what needs to be added or what this and that. But there's also a lot of trial and error. Which one weighs out the other, if that's even a fair question?
I mean, you can't have one without the
It's
other.
a balance.
Yeah.
No, I
You gotta have
know.
both.
If we didn't have skillful minds, we would have a lot more trial and error.
I think it's a little bit, I think it's like luck,
Yeah.
you know.
Because you said how many
people-
variables there was.
Skillful people get lucky more often than non-skillful people. I mean, not being ugly, but
Educated guesses
You know.
get you a long way, I feel like.
yeah, I mean, you put Derek Goddard up there, he's going to hit a hole in one more times than he's going to get lucky hitting a hole in one more times than I am because he's more skillful. You know what I mean? So it's like, I feel like luck follows talent or follows skill, and so, you know, is there trial and error? Hell yeah. Bless his heart. Mark was stroking out by Christmas because we weren't 1,000% done with this project. Like, he wanted to have them turned and polished, and
Yeah.
I guess he was planning on taking the month of February off or something, but he was stressing out. And I mean, we worked on it for a long time. We
You can have the measurements like you want in your head, and you can put it on that machine. But you got to find that spot where it's. I mean, you've got to find the sweet spot in it, and you're not going to do that on your first run.
Yeah, and there's no
It's-
frustration where it just
No.
ends you. Like, you have to figure it out because you're already that far invested into figuring out a call. You can't just drop it.
Construction and deconstruction, and a lot of it.
Yeah, and building a prototype is one thing. To Aaron's point, making a production run, hell, to be honest, that's as difficult as actually arriving on the
Yeah.
first one.
Yeah.
Because anybody can get lucky and
Yeah,
get a
I've
get a
never
base
made
hit.
a duck call on the
But-
first run.
But replicating that, I mean, I know for a fact, like on these, Mark did 30 or 40 inserts and realized that the one of the drill bits was not functioning properly
There's
because of
so
some
many
ebonite. We had
variables. Yeah.
those ebonite Levy cut inserts, and so we had to go back. We had to order another drill bit. We had to, the ebonite melts in a way that acrylic doesn't. Like, the material performs different, and so, even once we were done with design, we still had to back up and punt after about 20 or 30 inserts because the drill bits weren't operating. So there's definitely a lot of trial and error. But I think that's what makes, not real good at bragging here, but I'm going to brag, that I think that's one of the things that really sets us apart in the industry right now is we've got a badass team of people, very knowledgeable people that work here. And that sounds really braggy to say that, but I mean, gosh dang, you tell me another company that has somebody like Josh Grossenbacher building all the Yelpers, and you tell me another company that has, 4 world champs and Riley, who ain't exactly a slouch over
No,
there,
not a chance.
tuning, and somebody as talented as Mark machining. And oh, by the way, in addition to all that, like, that's a badass team there. But then I think the other thing that sets us apart even further from that is that, yeah, there are other duck call companies that own similar machines to ours, similar tooling, but I mean, we've got a guy in house that programs. So that, when you're talking about trial and error and arriving on something that is a finished product, like the normal duck call company that owns a lathe and a mill, a CNC lathe and a mill, they build something by hand, they map it, they pay somebody to write a program. I think the way we do it here, we have a guy here that programs, and we sample it. We give him our parameters. We build it by hand. We cut a tone board. We go through that same process that they do, but then we turn it and we build it, to Aaron's point. And then we go, don't like that. Let's manipulate that. And we add 10 thousandths here. We add 20 thousandths here. We add, you take away, and we, change depths. Like, we make those adjustments on the fly. And that's the difference between, in the world of machining, that's the difference between being a machinist and being an operator. Aaron is an operator. He's a great operator. But at the end of the day, Aaron's hitting green button and red button. Mm-hmm. He's making that machine go. And the only variable that he's tweaking is what we call the offsets. Mm-hmm. Well, if Aaron had to go back there and program from scratch, that striker dial, he can't do that.
We're gonna have a machine.
That doesn't make Aaron a bad person. It's just a limitation of Aaron's skill, right? Yeah. It's a knowledge that he doesn't have. Mm-hmm. And so I guess my point is, a lot of companies have lathes and mills. Very few companies have the benefit of having an in-house programmer to build and then tweak those designs. And
that's a huge deal.
Yeah, there's no communication error. I mean, you're talking face to face rather than through an email or a phone call, because you're talking about other companies that you're not putting any hash on them, but you're saying, if they want to build something, they almost have to do it in separate parts. And here it's just one singular part, and you can just finish it all.
You're right. They do have to do it in separate parts. And again, this is not throwing shade, but here's what happens. If you're a duck call company and you don't own your machine, when you get your parts, if they're not the way you want them to be, what do you do, Aaron?
Oh, gosh.
You get more sandpaper.
Yeah.
You go to sanding. Mm-hmm. You don't have a choice. Yeah. That's where we started, Drake.
In the bandsaw.
First day on the job at Rolling Thunder, what'd you do? Sit on the back porch and sanded ivory brutes.
Yep. Sure did.
And we sanded them until we, outside, because there was an ice storm and there was no power. You sand them until you get them where you want them. And then you try to make some adjustments to the machine. And again, I'm not throwing any shade toward the machinist. He's doing a great job. But the difference is, we didn't have control of the ability to manipulate things and tweak it just a little bit and go, you know what, if we did that, it would be better. It would be more efficient. And so, like, back to your initial question about the early days in the BSOD, like what's different? What have I learned? Well, one of the things I've learned is, man, if you don't always look for places to be more efficient and to be able to consistently replicate the same thing over and over, you just get tired. It's not about being lazy and not wanting to work hard, but like, if you can't put out the same duck call every time and you have to do a whole bunch of handwork to it to get it where it needs to be, you pack it up at the end of the day and you're like, dang, I don't want to come do that tomorrow. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's and then when you have bad days, you end up not doing as well. And when you have good days, you do them extra good. And so ultimately you just don't have consistency of your product. Anyway, so that's where we're at. So
I mean, the word consistency when you're talking about a duck call company is very important. It's very important.
To me, there's nothing more important. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know how y'all feel about consistency, but if you were judging your duck call on a scale of 0 to 100, and 100 is the perfect, never been made unicorn duck call, personally, I'd love to know y'all's opinion. I'd rather make a 65. Was that a D minus? High school?
Or plus, I think. I think they give you a plus on the 65.
That was an F in my day.
All right, well, let's call it a 70.
That's a D.
Man, in college, 70 was a C.
That's a C for us.
Call it a 70. I'd rather be able to make a 70 and make it every single day of the week over and over and over and make that exact same score than I would make 100, the next day make a 55, the next day make an 82, the next day make a 40, then make a 100. Like I'd rather, instead of being all over the map, I'd rather make the exact same thing. I believe that that's ultimately the proof, is consistency.
Do you believe that's happening right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe a little bit more, though.
Yeah, you said 70. I was like, I feel like we put out some, 75, 80. Like if 100% is a Mallard hen, I think we're like 80%.
I feel like the judges are throwing out 8s and 9s.
My point was, regardless of the score, 100's not really even an attainable goal. So that's like, that's like not even possible. So it's not the goal. What I'm saying is whatever you're capable of doing, being able to do that over and over and over and over, that's more important than trying 10,000 times to get that one perfect one and then having them all over the map. Like consistency is grouping, like it shooting a rifle. I'd rather all my shots go through the exact same hole and be 2 inches high and 2 inches right than I would be all over the paper and then just get one random one that hits the center edge.
You don't want to be a designated hitter that hits for $180 with 25, 30 home runs. You want to be the 5'6" guy that's batting 300, 350.
That can slap a
that's going to
single
score the
every
runners
single
every
time.
time they're on the base. And
and to your point, Gurk, yes, I think we're doing that at a level that we've never done before. To your point, Drake, I think we have room to continue to improve that consistency, which gives you, that's what you get up and go to work for. It gives you optimism and hope for the future. And to your point, Riley, I don't think we're making 70s. I'm a little more bullish about what we're making. I think we're making flat out badass duck calls that are killing ducks.
Yep.
And I don't want to get my head chopped off here, but I think we're in high B's, low A's range. I like where we're at. I do.
Yeah, and I wasn't asking that like disowning what consistency there is here. I just was pretty
you're
much
just curious. That's a fair
curious.
question.
I'm very curious. As Drake says, that I fidget a lot with stuff.
So let's just talk about the design of this call, and we'll wrap up here. But all right, so we're calling this a keyhole, and we've used the terminology keyholes change forever in our emails and our marketing. And I want to kind of explain what I mean by keyholes change forever. Keyholes change. Change is an important word because with this call, what we tried our best to do was to take all the things that we've learned and the things that we love, both learn and love, about the old school raised letters, the keyhole, but combine that with all of the things that we love and learn about the new school. Stepped bore. Multiple bore sizes is what stepped bore means. Hole depth, deck height, acrylic.
yeah.
I like acrylic better than polycarbonate for a lot of reasons. Polycarbonate has a great tonal quality. I am not knocking polycarbonate, but when a polycarbonate insert comes out of the mold, it shrinks and it gets cold. And so you can make a mold cavity that's exactly what you want, but when it pops out of that mold and it dries, it contracts, and so it changes. And so when you engineer a mold, you oversize it so that it shrinks to the right. You allow for the shrinkage, right? Well, that's different than machining acrylic. When you machine acrylic, you make it exactly what you want it. You need an 8-foot 2x4. You cut it 8 foot. You don't cut it 8 foot 2 inches.
Yep.
And so from the front of this tone board, what you've got multiple steps in the bore, 3 or 4 of them, I think. And then underneath the cork, you have a shelf that drops off. And when I say underneath the cork, it's in that region. Again, depth of all these things makes a huge difference. But the air is coming from the front of the tone board. It's going underneath the reed, it's dropping down into the tone channel, and then there's taper. And the shape of that taper from the first place that the air goes under the tone board until it comes out beside your hand, that all affects sound as well as feel. And so under the cork, it drops into this tone channel that is shaped like a keyhole. And it is a keyhole. And then it leaves the duck call in the shape of that round hole with the keyhole trough. What am I missing? If you don't think that affects the sound of your duck call, just drill a hole in the exhaust of your duck call and cover it up, and then take it off. And then, like change the shape of it. Yeah. Cover part of it.
The biggest secret is the raised letters is what makes it sound so good. That's the barrel.
Extra
The vibrations going through it.
Which is funny
meat,
because
potato, extra
leather.
meat, sir.
which is funny because people will say, barrel doesn't change the sound of that duck call at all. Bullshit.
Did I say I moved?
The
What's
XL
that
and
little-
the XLS are perfect examples of that.
Yeah. Okay.
What's that little GIF where the kid's like, a bullshit.
That's exactly what I was thinking of.
Barrel length, but also people don't talk about it very much. Barrel thickness changes the sound.
Yeah.
How trim it, how thin it is, or how thick it is.
Yep.
Go on, stick your favorite insert into a 2-inch thick, 3-inch long cylinder that's got no slender to it. Shape of a duck call affects the acoustics, not as much as other things, but it affects it. That's why you turn it to a shape.
Drake showed
Hold
me
on,
like
let that simmer for just a second. That's why you turn it on a lathe. It's not just aesthetics. The shape of that thing affects it.
No, I agree.
Drake showed me like the mouthpiece, even just as small and minute as like rimming out your mouthpiece to be more comfortable for your lips will even change the sound of it.
I agree.
So
The fat end of that barrel versus the straight end of that barrel
100%.
absolutely.
changes the way that duck call sounds.
When I first got I cut it when I was working at RT. I say cut it. You know, I worked on it, tuned it, whatever. And I bored it out or whatever to make the barrel fit, or reamed it out, make the barrel fit the other way. And I was just sitting there. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to put the fat end next to the insert and blow it from the skinny end, see how that sounds. And you'd be amazed how much looser and free feeling it was. You know, you could dance.
Some of which isn't the duck call. Some of which is just your ability to manipulate the air going in there. But it's the duck call too. I mean, it's multiple factors. You know.
Yeah.
We've gone way down, a rabbit trail. But I don't know. I get a little bit bristle when people are like, that doesn't affect the sound of the call. Like, the list is long of things that affect the sound of a duck call. Anyways.
You want to talk about the NWTF a little bit? Just kind of
Yeah, it's a
how
great
We
idea.
actually do need to talk about that.
before we get out of here.
It's a great idea.
Just kind of the flow, how that's going to work. And
You want to talk about it?
I got an idea. I can talk a little bit about it. I don't know all the full details. I do know you're getting a very snazzy leather patch from our man Lanier. That's just kind of going to be your token of passage once you get in. That's we're going to somehow have a line formulated signaling like this line starts here, and then we'll go through handing out leather patches numbered 1 through 50 for day 1, and then 51 through 100 for day 2, and then 101 through 150 for day 3.
Yep. So we're going to do 150 of them numbered.
Right.
They'll have the date on the tone board, and then they'll have the numbering system. So 001 through 50 will be day 1, which is Thursday, February 15th. Day 2 will be 51 through 100. And then day 3, Saturday, will be 101 through 150. And we're also going to have some unnumbered ones.
Yep. And then the online as well for the people that
Can't
live
make it to
across
the
the
show.
country that can't make it.
And I'm sure we'll have a few haters for all that, but I
Can't
think
make them all happy.
you can't make them all happy.
No, you
That's
can't.
true. I think what I hope that our customers will hear and appreciate is that we have really tried hard to listen to what people wanted. People have been asking for a raised letter. Here you go. People have been asking for a keyhole. Here you go. But also, people weren't real fond of the Levy Cup purple launch where they had to be here to get it. And then they sold out in 37 seconds, Monday morning. And so we tried to put some thought into, okay, we do want to number some of these and then be special. We do want to do more than what we can number, so some unnumbered ones, and we want to make them available in person and online.
We're just trying to be fair.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. I think we've come up with a nifty system for being fair, because if you're a guy who can only be there on Saturday, for example, and we sell them all on Thursday, which I mean, surely we're not going to do that. But if we did, and you were driving 5 or 6, 7 hours and had a hotel room to come get a call on Saturday, and we were out of numbered ones, like that would suck. And at the
You're
end
at
of the day,
least giving yourself a chance at 50. Like,
and we don't enjoy that.
No.
That sucks. Like when somebody waits in line or shows up on the third day of a show, and they're like, "Hey, do you have a No, that sucked last year, right? I mean, we did those Ebonite XLs.
Shoot, it was bad at like after an hour.
Yeah, wasn't it 12
sold
minutes?
out.
Yeah.
They were gone in like 10 minutes.
Yeah, and you felt so crummy telling people on Friday and Saturday, like, nope, sorry,
Yeah,
sorry,
and
nope,
you don't want
sold
to.
them all.
You got a guy sitting there like, well, how many more you got left? Well, so we got 5. It's like, I'll take all 5. You don't want to tell that guy no. That's money right there. One in the hand's worth more,
That's business.
more than 2 in the bush.
Yeah,
That's business,
exactly.
you know?
That's like letting 50
I like
Mallards land
$100
and picking
bills.
out the.
So you don't know if somebody's actually going to come up after they're sold out.
Right.
Well, let's be honest. Didn't y'all get up today to make duck calls to sell?
Yeah.
I mean, like
what
it's our
we're here
job.
for.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
I mean, we do a lot of other fun things while we're here, but I mean, at the end of the day, like
We gotta
that's what
sell
keeps
'em.
the lights on.
We got to sell them. Some guy wants 100 of them. Come buy 100 of them.
I love them. They're great, but I don't want to see them. Like Gurk said, if somebody wants to buy 100, you buy 100.
Yeah. So, anyways, I have we beat that horse dead? So we're gonna have some online. They'll be available on Thursday at 11 a.m. We don't have a way of rationing those out, to my knowledge, because we're all pretty. This is great. Snapchat is.
I tried to do like the little baby filter on his face. It wouldn't pick up. I was like, dang it.
We'll have 50 each day that are numbered, and then we'll have some unnumbered ones with us. Oh, I know a detail we forgot. We've been getting messages and messages and messages, bunches of them. This isn't going to be a one and done deal, is it? No and yes. Here's the no part. There will be more BSODs this calendar year. So, no, it's not a one and done. Yes, it's a one and done from a standpoint of we're not doing any more after this batch. We're not doing any more until at least September. So we're not taking custom orders February the 20th for a flow red, raised letter,
BSOD.
polished BSOD, or a ebonite raised letter. No. I mean, there's enough boiled egg smell around here from the ebonite calls that are going to NWTF. This poor cypress wood in this shop's going to stink like
Smell like
stale
eggs.
farts for a while. But no, I mean, in all seriousness, we've got enough work lined up, too much work really, to take care of our wholesale partners that we're not doing any custom BSODs this summer. And we're also not doing any small batches of BSODs this summer. So this batch right here has got us until September. Well, I'm sure we'll do other batches of things, but not BSODs. So, yes, there will be more. No, it's not a one and done. No, they will not be available after this batch sells out until September. Did I get the yeses and nos right on that?
You forgot one yes. Yes, you can come to MWTF and buy one.
Yeah, there you go. And yes, you can buy one online. I mean,
Yeah.
Let's run through real quick. What else are we taking to NWTF? Like, let's go through
got some
calls, but
swag.
let's talk about just kind of generally, like, start rambling off things. y'all
Stanky
think of.
Levis.
Yeah, stinky
Yeah.
Levies.
Yep.
Ebonite Levy cuts,
That
which,
look
by the way,
identical to alt.
Holy smokes, they are gorgeous.
That ebonite we were talking
Flat
about.
ebonite that burns when you touch your mouth to it.
Spicy.
In your face.
Unpolished. Ebonite, barrel, and acrylic.
Also have same unpolished ebonite mean ducks.
Yep. Those
They
are
pretty
sharp
bad
with
too.
a brass band.
Polished
seen
brass
that, yeah.
band. Oh man, they are
Yeah, they look good.
perte.
Yep.
Bunch of new leather stuff.
Yes.
All the new leather work.
bunch of new leather
Wallets,
stuff.
Everything.
Mouth
Turkey
call
totes,
wallets, turkey totes,
duck
couple different
totes.
kinds. We do have some duck totes.
I could talk them into like making you some boots. And
Not happening
Lanyards?
in that shop.
Lanyards.
Those lanyards.
Yes.
are sick.
Yeah,
Lanyards.
we've got like the fancy rolled leather stitch lanyards that Aaron and Lanier have been making. We've also got a more simplistic, minimalist style double drop. You know, why does it have a double drop? Well, it has one loop for your Levy cut and one loop for your BSOD.
Turkey calls.
Got a few
Yep.
twists. We've got a new pot call. We've actually got 3 new pot calls. We've got two really variations of the Thunderdome that are different this year, but the Thunderdome is it's a different material. It's not a polycarbonate. It's a I don't even know the
Like a
fancy
glass
term.
nylon.
Yeah, it's
Like a glass resin
I don't
type.
even know what that means, but it's heavy.
Yeah,
like you
yeah,
hold
great
it, it's
weight.
heavy. And so it's different. It's a little different design than last year's Thunderdome, but it's also got a premium striker in it. And so it's a waterproof pot, heavy. You can hold it relative to, you know, a cherry pot or a walnut pot. Man, it's heavy. It's got a synthetic soundboard, and it freaking rings.
Yeah, it does.
And it's got a premium one-piece flare tip striker in it. It is a hell of a pot call for $50.
Can't beat it.
So we've got a crystal version of that and a slate version of that. And then, so I said there were 3 pot calls that are different. That's 2 of them. The third one I'm super excited about is we've got a small batch of a new one we're calling the Gold Digger. And she's a bad, bad biatch. You'll have to come look at that pot, but it's a cherry pot with a goldish. You can tell all our secrets. Tone board, and man, it's got serious rattle in it. Yeah.
Apparel. Seen new hat today.
Yeah, a couple
Yep.
new hats. Got the
What?
old.
We got new hats.
Got the new white golfing hat. We got a couple of old school camo hats. Also got return of the rope lost caps with a new patch. 3 different variations of that.
Yep.
What
The
we got?
solid that Pruitt was wearing.
Green leaf, tree stand, and original bottomland. Yeah, and then we got solid brown rope cap. It's like that thinner performance fabric.
Yep.
Waterproof. That's a really sharp cap. We got a whole bunch of them Richardson dad caps with the oak tree on the front. That's my favorite cap of all time. The tan ones. Restock those. 2 new hoodies.
Yep.
Aaron's sporting one of them.
My performance on
Got
today.
Yeah, got the black dry fit performance hoodie.
I've been performing in it too. Been working my butt off.
I was about to say,
Nope, didn't go there.
what direction are we going with that comment?
At work. Purely work.
Like I just wasn't sure where.
On today's episode of Howard Stern. Go ahead.
We got the chocolate brown distressed hoodie. I like that one a lot. y'all are outrageous. Stop it. Speaking of keyholes, this microphone stand has a keyhole clasp right here.
There's a whole
Somebody will
bunch
buy
of
it on
keyhole
Offense
glass.
Cutdown.
What else? We got
The
about them Pure Duck rigs?
that's the Pure Ducks. Those ivory. It's got
Yeah.
the striations in it.
Yeah, it's
I
like
don't-
imitation ivory.
Yeah,
it's a
it's
variation.
heavier-
It looks just
heavier.
like elephant ivory.
Yeah,
and
and
it
you-
feels like it. I mean, it's heavy.
yeah. You hold it next to an acrylic Pure Duck held together in your hand, and it is significantly heavier.
Speaking of Pure Duck, the refuge man, Mr. Pure Duck Keith Allen himself, is going to be in the booth signing autographs, kissing babies, and tuning duck calls Friday afternoon.
So that means there'll
And
be a concert somewhere.
Saturday.
Let's say, where's the
I
concert?
don't know. You know,
I've never actually heard him sing before.
You weren't here that day at the shop?
No,
Was
never. I
he
was
not
gone.
working here? Oh.
Where were you?
yeah, where were you?
Was that during the golf tournament?
No, it was
No.
the day
In
after duck
February.
season last year.
Yeah.
You were here.
No.
Yeah.
I do think he went somewhere.
No, because I remember getting videos of him playing in here, and I wasn't here.
Where were you?
Who knows?
You weren't here whenever. Didn't we eat duck poppers or something?
Chicken tenders, I think, was what we had
Yeah,
today.
oh.
when Keith was here.
I was probably at the trade show, huh?
That's exactly where he
yeah.
was. Poor guy was
Pennsylvania?
Poor guy is right. That was rough.
That was abusive treatment, and I'm sorry, Gurk.
That's okay. I'm just happy we didn't go to it again.
Gurk pulled all 10 days plus 3 days of travel on both sides at the Great American Outdoor Show in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania last year.
Why are you laughing?
This is me demonstrating self-control. They weren't that bad. I mean, we made it all right. It was okay. It just not a trip that we needed to go make this year.
Right.
You know, so
It's far ways up there.
yeah, long ways. That's right. So we got
The Pure Dogs, Mean
Yep.
Dogs, Levis's, BSODs,
Levis'.
apparel. That's what I've been referring to them
That's
as
great.
all duck season. Didn't I text you on opening day? I was like, that Levis is leaving.
Yeah, something like that.
Ever since then, it's just been a Levis to me.
a bunch of leather things, and then
Leather.
got some leather accessories. I don't even know if y'all have seen a few chapstick holders, some keychains.
Yeah,
What else,
those
y'all?
will be few and far between. So if you want one of those, you better get there quick.
Yeah.
That's just some stuff, man. Lenore's put together real quick.
Yeah.
So,
I'm sure we're missing something, but lots of
I'm
cool
taking
things.
some of the patches, stuff.
Yeah,
like that.
that's right. Leather
Yeah.
patches you can have sewn on your
Same.
shooting vest.
We'll have the same booth, but different setup this year. That'll be cool.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of more room.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited to
Spaced
that tree
out,
strip.
yeah.
Or
Yeah,
t-shirt.
t-shirt rack.
Oh yeah, got a little little new fixtures, little new decorations.
Little big fixtures.
Yeah. Old
Hope they're on better wheels.
Old Fab Man himself, man, they are.
They are, and more wheels.
They're
Too.
metal. They're metal wheels with metal bearings. Like they're
Sweet.
Like military grade?
Not the shopping cart.
What is military grade wheels?
I've never
Like military grade.
God, I wish I would have been
Gurk,
recorded.
Obviously, I
for
wasn't
that.
asking if they were actual military grade.
You're a national treasure. I don't have any experience with military grade bearings. I don't know.
I know.
These are. I'll put it to you this way. These are not your grandpa's
Casters.
wheels that he got casters that he got from Lowe's or Home Depot.
All right, just checking.
These are pretty bad to the bone. All right, I guess last thing. What are you looking forward to at NWTF? What do you want to see?
That's a good question.
Well, we're going to have to go see your friends at Mossy Oak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just in case they got some little surprises that they haven't posted about yet. You never know.
I'm looking forward to getting me a right shirt. I've been so busy, I haven't had a chance to get one of them duck rigs like all
Mallard,
Riles is
yeah.
wearing over there.
I'm excited that they now offer 34 length in their pants.
You're getting on the khaki train.
Yeah.
Dang.
I gotta give me some new khakis.
Heard that. Boy, those chamois pants are just incredible.
I know.
I haven't got a pair
and every Mossy Oak Companion pants I have is a 32. It's like,
High water.
yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. But you still wear them.
A little tight on the thighs and both. I'm like, God, it's so comfortable.
That's right.
Boy, they got us with the companions last year. I mean, we had.
No, they're gonna get me again. Don't
I
worry.
know.
Oh, yeah.
They will me too.
I've been carrying around Christmas money in my wallet ever since, just waiting.
The companions was going out the door.
What you looking forward to, Gurk?
I don't know.
Is
Trying to
there
think
a huntress that's going to be there that you got your heart set on?
That's a very rough subject.
Why?
I don't know.
You and Pruitt can go on the parade.
Yeah, finally a single person going to the NWTF with me that works at Rolling Thunder.
Yep.
Spencer Pruitt.
Yeah, that's what I said.
They teach you how to dance.
He'd be a great
Riley
wingman
Bennett.
for you.
Yeah.
For real.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
My apologies, Allie. My apologies. My apologies.
Reverse.
Yeah. Just tell... That's the old guy. He don't remember. Since his memory's going, he's sloppy.
He don't even know what he had for breakfast.
Yeah.
Hell,
Ignore Grandpa.
he didn't eat for 5 days.
6. It was 6.
I think the most exciting is being second year into it because you guys tried to warn me how crazy it was going to be being inside of that booth, and then I was like, I've been through a lot of crazy things in my life, and That I remember just sitting back there with my camera, not even moving. So this year's going to be a little bit different.
I remember looking across the booth, seeing Gurk. I just wander over there and say, well, how you doing? I'm tired.
There's a lot of work that goes into it. Mm-hmm. But no, I'm excited for it. It's going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be a lot of happy faces in there.
Mm-hmm. Aaron, what you looking forward to?
I don't know, man. It's just fun. A little bit of everything, you know, here and there. Standing on my feet all day long. Selling some calls. Talking to folks.
Riley?
Just seeing people I hadn't seen in a while. I ain't seen a lot of people in a long time. So
I'm looking forward to Spence. What are you looking forward to?
yes,
Hey, Spence, what are you looking forward to?
There's a couple things that Shin Gear's got that I'm anxious to see and put my hands on. They got them waist waders, pretty slick. I saw a glimpse of them one time when I was at White Oaks this year, but walked around the corner and Dylan was shuffling it into a closet. So I didn't get to look at them real long. And they got a couple other tops and things that I'm pretty jazzed about, like a kind of a sweater thing, and a vest thing. I'm butchering whatever. They're gonna have a great name for them, and I'm totally butchering that.
I hope they have that full zip mid layer I've been wearing. That thing's hot.
Yeah,
it's like right over. It's like a 60 minus a hood, full zip.
Is it heavier than a 60 or same
Just
weight?
a touch.
Okay.
Just a scotch over a 60.
So but it goes well over the top of a 60.
Then you put that Prim Loft on top, and your favorite vest over the top of that. But
Signed up.
Them rigs. I like that. Okay. Any other highlights anybody's looking forward to?
I mean, the Opryland Center is just a treat in itself. Except for the part where you got to walk through half of it just to get to where you're going.
Yeah. Maybe we'll bring the golf cart.
That
Drive it
place-
through the center? Yeah. I don't
That
think
place
they'll say
is
anything.
measured in acres inside. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Did you...
Acres.
How many acres is it?
I don't remember, but I remember it being measured in acres.
Did you know all the water that's in there is from several different places? So if you walk like towards like the back, there's an actual signage of an entire signage of where people grabbed water from their areas and then shipped them off, and they dumped it into the Gaylord or the Opryland Center. Seriously.
I feel like Gurk watched a documentary on the Gaylord
No,
Opryland
no,
Hotel.
no.
He
last
went
weekend.
tourism
we went and
last
toured
year.
it.
Oh,
Yeah,
when
with
Mom
the
and Dad
family.
came in town in
Yeah.
September? Okay.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Out of the whole tourist thing, that was the
So
only
what
thing
did they? What?
you'll have
now?
to show me where that's at. I don't
Is it
know.
I
like
will.
for the water park? Or?
The entire water that's inside of the whole building.
Like the
the-
fall and all that.
Yeah. And it's never left. They've just like recirculated it, you know, but there's a place there, like the one from South Dakota, there's only one. It was from Pierce, South Dakota.
So like you're talking about the river where the little
the boat
log
goes
boat,
through.
the boat ride. And
What about the water
falls and-
park?
I don't know.
That's
I think it's
probably
just
some
Surely
Nashville
that's
water.
filtered by the city of Nashville.
Yeah, you would think.
I think it's just the water maybe inside of the
Yeah.
where the boat goes.
Okay.
But you can walk on the backside, right when you know where people get on the boat, right just past that. There's like a little sign. I mean, it's like long of all the states and towns and everything.
All the times I've been in there, never seen that.
Gurk, I would like to give you an assignment.
No, on live podcast. Okay, cool.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, so everybody who comes to NWTF that has listened to the podcast this long has my permission to ask Gurk if he completed this assignment.
Oh Lord,
I want you to bring water from Somerville, Tennessee,
end up in it.
and pour it into that river. Not out of the tap.
What if I get kicked out?
How?
I'll figure out how to get you
Gurk,
back
dog.
in.
All right.
We got to go to Wolf River after work. We're going to go get some of that Wolf River water.
I'm thinking like empty water bottle, one of these puddles out in the driveway, or some of this
Some
water
true
coming
rolling thunder water.
off the roof, like not
just-
out of the
not-
tap.
yeah,
I mean, like,
that'd be just ruining the moment.
yeah. I mean that.
It's supposed to rain for the next few days, so
Yeah,
set out a pot.
Put a pot. Yeah, exactly.
So
collect
that-
collect some real deal Holyfield, Somerville, Tennessee shop water.
Okay. That's my mission.
Get a bucket. We got plenty of buckets. Well, maybe not.
Oh,
We
you
got-
might want to clean them buckets.
Yeah.
I think emptying a plastic bottle would be just fine.
Some of them buckets are just fine. Then you get the ones that Mark is recycling coolant with out of the. Yeesh.
Or the
Little
green
foamy.
foam.
Yeah.
The Lucky Charm foam.
You can get really
No
arrested
doubt.
if you did that. Then if you poured that in there.
Or a 3-time bucket.
This is from Somerville.
Get a 3-time bucket.
Oh
That
man.
bucket's in the dumpster.
All right. Have we beat this one to death? I think we're done.
I think it was a good one though. Good one.
I can't wait for people to blow this duck call.
I was on the phone with Rich, and Rich goes, "I bet you they're gonna pull it out of that box and just start blaring that thing."
They might, but man, I'm just, I don't know. I guess I'm a homer. I'm biased. I'm proud of what we created. I think it sounds great. I played the sound file that me and you recorded last night. I played it for Drake, and he said, "Dang, that does sound like a keyhole."
It does.
And it's just, I like the way it sounds. I mean, it may not be for everybody, but I'm proud of it, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
It is.
It's bye.
That's right. Vroom, vroom. All right. Catch y'all on the next one.
See ya.
Check it.